Welcome everyone to our journey through some of Japan's most extraordinary and mysterious islands. Today we'll explore the unique histories and cultures of these remarkable locations. We'll also share some essential know-before-you-go tips to make your visit smooth and enjoyable. So, let's dive in and uncover the stories behind these incredible places. Ganryū-jima, located in Shimonoseki, Japan, is the site of a famous samurai duel. Almost everyone in Japan knows of the 17th century swordsman Miyamoto Musashi and the legendary duel between him and his rival Sasaki Kojiro. Musashi allegedly arrived at the duel purposefully late, wielding a wooden sword made out of an oar. Enraged by this disrespect, Kojiro lost his calm and was struck on the forehead, knocked unconscious, and was thus defeated, although accounts vary. While there are numerous theories about the date of the event, there is one undoubted fact. The duel took place on the small island of Ganryū-jima, located between Japan's mainland, Honshu, and the Kyushu region. Officially named Funajima, meaning Boat Island, it was later nicknamed Ganryū-jima after the fighting style that Kojiro invented. Originally a small island of merely 4 acres, Ganryū-jima is now about 25 acres wide, largely due to the landfill that Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, which owned most of the island until 2003, maintained. The island was home to about 30 families after World War II, but all of them abandoned Ganryū-jima during the 1970s, and it has been uninhabited since. Most of the island has been maintained as a public park, and there is a pair of statues reenacting and commemorating the duel between Musashi and Kojiro, immortalizing the legendary samurai. The island can be visited by ferry from either Shimonoseki or Kita-Kyushu. When visiting, please note that smoking and swimming are prohibited, and that there are no trash cans on the island. Sado Island's Tarai Bune, located in Sado, Japan, features these unconventional tugboats that let locals row around the island's turbulent coast. When you step off the ferry at Ojiport, you may be surprised to see folks floating around in what appear to be wooden bathtubs. Although almost completely unboat-like in appearance, the Tarai Bune, or tugboats, are intimately associated with this remote Japanese island. Origin stories about the unusual vessels abound. Some say that centuries ago, an enterprising person cut a miso barrel in half to use as a boat, giving rise to the local nickname of hangiri, or half-barrel. Others say that it was a happy discovery when someone's tub floated away and appeared to glide stably along the wild coast. And of course, there are also local legends about a maiden using a tub to make her way to the mainland to see her beloved, later perishing in a storm. Whichever story you choose to believe, Tarai Bune first appeared during the early Meiji period, from 1868 to 1912. Their unusual shape made them more stable than regular boats in the rough waters around this former island of exiles. While fishermen and women originally used them to collect turban shells, abalone and seaweed, now the tradition is kept alive by elderly ladies who shuttle visitors around and giggle at their attempts to maneuver the tricky craft. Know before you go, if you want to spend a few hundred yen on a tub boat ride, the booking counter is right near Ojiport. Okishima Island, Omihachimanshi, Japan, a Japanese cat island also populated by the descendants of a band of banished samurai. Okishima Island is the only inhabited island within Lake Biwa, Japan's largest freshwater lake and one of the oldest lakes in the world. It's also one of the country's cat islands, and the furry felines roaming the lakefront are usually happy to greet any visitors who come ashore. The island is so full of cats it's sometimes called the town of cats. You can expect to find the cats lounging around the docks or snacking on a fish they've plucked from the inland sea. But the animals aren't the only intriguing inhabitants on the island. According to local history, the roughly 400 people who call the island home are descended from a group of exiled samurai. During the 12th century, 7 samurai were defeated in battle near Kyoto. They fled with their families to Okishima and remained in hiding on the island. As the years wore on, the samurai and their families seemed to fade from memory and were able to peacefully form their own little village. Centuries later, and many of their descendants still remain on the island. Most of the island's current residents have one of 7 surnames believed to be traced back to the escaped warriors. The majority of the locals earn their living from fishing the lake, making the island a rare freshwater fishing hub within Japan. Now the island is a peaceful place with a quiet, serene atmosphere. Narrow streets wind through lush greenery and lead to lookouts with prime vistas of the lake. Know before you go, the closest train station is Omihachiman. From Omihachiman, buses take the 30-minute route to Horikiri Newport. Small ferries depart from Horikiri to Okishima Island 11 times per day on weekdays. The one-way ferry fare is 500 yen and the trip takes about 10 minutes. Matsushima Bay. These tiny pine-covered islands have inspired art and poetry for centuries. Off the east coast of Japan lies a scenic bay, the water scattered with small pine-covered outcrops. One of the most famous of these islands is Oshima or Ojima, where the famed haiku poet Matsuo Basho traveled in the 17th century. Basho found that he could not compose a poem that adequately captured his feelings towards Matsushima. In his Narrow Road to the Deep North, he describes his experience viewing the bay from the shores of Oshima as the most beautiful scenery in Japan. Basho went on to describe the bay as such. There are an inexhaustible number of islands, some steeply rising, some lying, prostrating themselves on the waves. There are some that hug others in their arms, as if loving their children. The green of the pines come in delicate shades, and their branches are blown by the salty winds, as if they had created their crookedness by themselves. The island of Oshima is accessible by bridge from the shore. It was originally used as a place for ascetic training by the priests of nearby Zuiganji Temple, and made a natural rest stop for the famous haiku poet. In honor of his visit, there is a stone monument to him on the island. There are also several small stone Buddhas and a shrine to Shinju Inari. Matsushima Bay's islands are theorized to have formed in the early Holocene. A significant sea level rise occurred during this time, which may have caused the islands to appear as a submerged coast. It is also theorized that a strong earthquake may have triggered a massive coastal landslide in which a large segment of land slid into the sea. When the rocky hills were left exposed, it created the unique geology we see today. Tours are available from sightseeing cruise boats, which depart the pier frequently and usually last between 30 and 60 minutes. The easiest way to get here is by train. From Sendai, take the JR Tohoku line for Kogota. The ride will only be about 24 minutes. Tickets for boat tours are available from the pier and can usually be purchased within an hour of departure. Ojima Island is located south of the pier within walking distance and is accessible by bridge. Okunoshima, Takahara, Japan. Japanese island famous for poison gas and fluffy bunnies. Okunoshima, also known as Usagi-shima, Rabbit Island, is a small island with a dark history. Despite Japan signing the Geneva Protocol in 1925 to ban the use of poison gas, the island was home to a poison gas plant that made over 6 kilotons of mustard gas. The island was chosen for its secrecy and isolation and was even removed from some maps. After the war, the poison was disposed of and the laboratory animals were set loose. With no natural predators native to the island, they quickly spread, and now there are hundreds of tame rabbits roaming around. However, others assert that these are not the testing bunnies, but rabbits that were released just for the new park that developed on the island. In 1988, the 2-room gas plant was converted into the Poison Gas Museum and opened to educate the Japanese people about the role the island played during the Second World War. The island is also home to the Chuzi power line crossing, Japan's largest electricity pylon. No cats or dogs are allowed on the island. Take the Sanyo Shinkansen train to Mihara Station. The Nozomi does not stop there, so a slower train will have to be taken. At Mihara, catch the Kure Line local train to Tadanumi. From there, walk to the terminal and catch a ferry which takes approximately 12 minutes.